Thank you so much. In the words of one of your neighbors here, Yogi Berra, I want to thank everyone who made this day necessary. This is pretty cool. It really is. I don't know where to start. I guess we have to go back to 1969. I was with the actually the Atlanta Braves in '69. And I wasn't signing a contract, and I was sitting home during spring training, and all of a sudden I get a phone call, and I was traded to the St. Louis Cardinals on St. Patrick's Day. I said, that's pretty cool. Who did I get traded for? Orlando Cepeda. Really? Is that all? I mean, Orlando still lives. Alberto's right over there. It's perfect. I said, oh, my goodness gracious. I got traded for a guy, well, World Series 2 years in a row, and MVP, no pressure at all. And I show up in spring training, and the first guy to welcome me is a guy who never even nodded to me or said hello to me when I was playing against him or playing on the same all-star team with him, Bob Gibson. I know you always thought that he was this affable, friendly person, but he really hadn't gotten there yet. And I was feeling pretty good about myself. You know, getting traded for Cepeda, this ball club must think something of me like that. And then, of course, when Bob and I started hanging out, he told me the real story. It's Bing Devine, who was the general manager at the time, liked to ask players what they thought about prospective trades and players that may come over. And he asked Bob about Joe Torre. He says, oh, yeah, go, get him. Get him. He's a good player. So the trade was made, and then Bob told me later, he went to Bing, he says, yeah, I wanted to get Joe Torre, but I didn't want you to trade Cepeda. So if I was on any kind of a perch, that took care of that right there. But coming over to the Cardinals, Lou Brock, Mike Shannon, Tim McCarver, Kurt Flood, I mean, some special people. Manager Red Schoendienst, folks. Opening day, we're playing the Pirates, night game. I'm playing first base. 0 for 6. 0 for 6. I'm playing first, nobody on base. Willie Stargell gets up and hits me a bullet. And I get on my knee to try to block it. It hit me about 3 different places when in the right field. Gibby called timeout. He was pitching. Called me over. And I said, oh, God, I don't want to have to listen to this. He said, when Stargell hits a ball that hard, don't get in front of it. They did whatever they could to make me feel welcome. And that's what this team is all about, and that's what this team was all about when I played with the St. Louis Cardinals. It's a special place. It's a special place. And then you got a taste of the fans. You did from the opposition side, and it was always pretty cool. This is probably the only city in major leagues that opposing players look forward to coming to. And trust me, it's not because they look forward to playing the Cardinals. It's because of all of you. You're just great baseball fans, fair baseball fans. Somebody plays hard. I guess the old Gas House gang got you used to that. The player gets dirty, and he's worth giving applause to. It's just a great place to have been able to play baseball for 6 years, and I thank you for that. And then when I came over, and I had a batting stance something like this, and Red Schoendienst came up to me, he says, "How long do you think you can stand there like that?" And I said, "Well, I probably get a little tired, probably not too long." He says, "Try get your bat down around here where you can just sort of like standing around, you wouldn't get tired doing that." Yeah, and what happens, I hit 325, then 363, so. But you made so many friends. Of course, I look back there in one of the back rows here, and our trainer from the clubs that I played for, Gene Gieselman, is here, and I want to thank Gino for coming. And then you got an opportunity to meet Stan Musial. And yeah, you're right. Wow. Stan, you know, spring training, there's Stan Musial. I mean, I have a picture on my phone, you know, Stan doing calisthenics with me. I mean, was that a keeper or what? And he was such a, I remember I asked Stan one time, I said, "Stan, can you just give me some tips on hitting?" And he says, "Well," he says, if the ball's inside, pull it to right, and if the ball's outside, hit a line drive to left." I said, "Well, what the hell's so tough about this stuff?" There's no way he was going to complicate things for himself. And then I got to meet a coach. He was on our coaching staff, but he was much more than that, George Kissel. George Kissel, I thought I knew baseball. I mean, I'm 28, going to be 29 years old in 1969. I thought I knew baseball until you hang out with George for a spring training. Then you just realize how many new things you're learning about. Well, I was going to play third base in 1970. Mike Shannon came down with the nephritis, and Bing Devine asked if I would be willing to play third base. I said, "I'll give it a shot." And George would have me out there every morning at 7:30, 8 o'clock in spring training, and we worked on it. Watching him develop young players was so special. I mean, there are so many infielders and switch hitters that came through this organization. I got a chance to witness George in the instructional league in Florida. Not only did he know how to teach, but he knew how to love. I mean, this man just made every single player feel like they were going to play in the big leagues, because he made them feel like they were a very special player. And we missed George Kissel. He used to sit next to me when I came back to manage in spring training, and he'd always have a little advice for me. He says, before the inning starts, he says, count 1 to 9. And what he meant by that is, go around, pitcher, catcher, and then around the infielder, but to make sure everybody is playing where you want them to play for that particular hitter. Something simple, 1 to 9. And, as I say, I miss George Kissel, just the conversations. And of course, Stan Musial, when I came back here as a manager in 1990, and I want to thank Dal Maxwell for making that possible. He was the GM at the time. It was, it was coming home for me. It really was. I was out of the game. I was broadcasting, but out of the game on as far as on the field. For 6 years, and it was an opportunity that I got excited about. And of course, living in St. Louis and getting that phone call at 4 o'clock in the afternoon at Stan Musial saying, "Hey, Joe, what do you say? What do you say? What are you and Allie doing tonight? You want to have dinner? We're going to be over here in about an hour." I said, "We'll be there." We never even had to think about it. It was really an absolute pleasure and a delight to be in his company. And, the managing stuff, you wished for more. It didn't happen. I managed 5 years. You guys were very fair to me, and I really appreciate all the support you give me. As I say, this organization has been so special for me. And when Bill DeWitt called me in April and said, "You've been elected to the Cardinal Hall of Fame," he said, "I know you're in baseball's Hall of Fame." And, he didn't have to say anything more. The Cardinals are very, very special. And to know the history of this organization, the pride that involves playing in this organization, the fact that, you need to have something special. And the first thing you need to have playing in this organization is find a way to get it done. It's not necessarily the most talented, but you're going to have to beat them. They're not going to beat themselves for the most part. And that's because of the organization and the minor league people who work tirelessly, and then coming to the big leagues, and a manager like Mike Matheny who never takes anything for granted. And I want to thank so much of my family. I have a niece, Kathy here, lives in St. Louis, and part of the gang from Cincinnati. My wife is one of 16 children, so not everybody is here. But it's a good gathering of sister-in-laws and brothers-in-law, and there's a nephew over there, too. Yeah, we got a bunch. It's pretty cool. Thanks, guys, for being here. It's very special. Stan Musial, I go back, thinking about, I used to have lunch with him often, and I always used to sit next to him. And, he was getting a little on, and he'd say, "You're from Brooklyn, right?" And I'd say, "Yeah." And then he proceeded to tell me how well he hit against Brooklyn. It would always stir a memory, because that's where he got the name, the man, from playing against the Dodgers and the Giants in New York, because he just wore them out. And then, of course, in between the conversation, he'd always reach into my plate and grab something that was on my plate to taste it. But I can't tell you how honored I am for being inducted into the Cardinals Hall of Fame. It's just it's just a special gathering. Folks, they're winners. As I say, when I came over, and there was Gibson and Brock and Shannon and McCarver and Kurt Flood, and it was just a special, special group. Everybody in their own way said, "Welcome aboard," and would just make you feel as comfortable as possible. It's a special organization. It's a special city. I said once, and I keep repeating it because I can't think of any other way to explain it, but once you've worn a Cardinal uniform, thanks to you, you feel like royalty, because that's the way you treat us when we come back. I want to thank you again. Thanks, Bill DeWitt. Thanks for that phone call. I'm telling you, I'm glad I answered that sucker. Thanks for all you Hall of Famers being here. Mike Shannon, special individual for me. He really is. He's a Cardinal through and through. And to tell you how far I've come, I don't even dislike Tony La Russa anymore. Thank you for the privilege of being up here. I love you, and it's nice being home.